So I'm here today with Jatin Dev from Google. Tell us what you do at Google.
Ben, I'm part of the media partnerships team at Google UK and Ireland. I focus on bringing about digital transformation to our publisher business and basically work with our large broadcast partners and also try to bring the best of cross-functional Google partnerships across our different product portfolios and work with them to make sure that we bring value to the business.
And what was the message you were trying to convey to the conference today?
I think the core message that we thought was very interesting is that the streaming and DTC ecosystem in the past 10 years has been in flux. And some of those changes have been even more accelerated by COVID. And some of those changes are even now more pronounced, even after COVID. Even having said all of that put together, there's a massive opportunity. The industry tells us that about $1.7 trillion in 2029 across digital streaming, advertising, and SWOT, which opens up room for more strategies, more constraints, and opportunities. And that is what I wanted to bring to the forum.
Google's all about advertising, so is it really the advertising opportunity that you're trying to address with your partnership strategy?
For the partnerships team, yes, a large focus is advertising and monetization. But I think Google in general focusing on supporting businesses, and that could be anything from advertising to subscription. For example, if you think about looking at investing time and resources in your audiences, that data, that insights can actually be used across both monetization, partnership, and subscription as well.
Okay, so there's more to it than just the advertising piece.
Yes.
And do you find that the broadcasters and other TV platforms that you're working with, do they get it? Do they understand how they can move forward?
That's a very good question. And I think it's very market-to-market specific. Like I said, I recently moved from India, and India was a different market. For example, we moved from a traditional broadcast business to completely digital first. Like India is now a video first / mobile first market. So there was no transition period in between. It just happened because telcos changed, and that led to the consumption of online video also follow suit. But now that's not the case in traditional business. There are different nuances, like there are public sector broadcasters, there are pay TV broadcasters, linear channels, which are producing some great content and have massive distribution and presence. But again, the eyeballs are shifting. If you look at the average age in Europe, it ranges from some 37 years to 45 years, right? And that population is declining. So advertisers, if they continue to advertise on linear channels, they are stuck with few set of demographics, which are repeatedly seeing the same ads as before. So to reach out to new audiences who are, let's say, in the younger demographic, they kind of have to look out at the digital touch points. And the publishers in European markets are at different stages for whatever reasons. And that's a conversation that the regional leads would have to work on.
The last few years have been, let's say, interesting. What kind of changes have you observed over those last few years?
I think in terms of changes, the biggest one is the rise of SWOT. Like this was, if you look at right now, 40% of the global users are now watching content behind a paywall in some format. That was not the case before COVID. Like advertising was the main revenue driver for AVOD or for online streaming, and there were nuances to it. Like there would be catch-up TV consumption happening on OTTs, while TV was the primary broadcast. No longer so. So I think that's very important, and that would also lead to how content is created in future. Because now if more content is being consumed online, you have more insights, more nuanced insights around it for each individual audience. Instead of, let's say, a household understanding, now you have an individual level understanding, which gives you a vast responsibility of collecting, creating, and curating the right content.
And looking ahead, what are the main shifts you expect?
I think because it's overly becoming very competitive market, I think it's important to be investing in it, but also being smart around it. So I think investing in content which is transferable, fungible, and for loyal audiences. As long as you're creating that content that you address all of these buckets, that is going to be helping you for long-term success. And I think keep experimenting with whatever pricing model which works with you. I mean, there is no one size fits all situation here. For some viewers, subscription makes sense. For some viewers, AVOD makes sense. And for some viewers, ad load is not a big challenge. So maybe a different ad load within the price segment makes sense. So you kind of have to be open-minded about it and make sure that all of your teams, both subscription team and advertising team, work together and understand the overall goal and not compete with each other for business.
There's been a lot of excitement around the concept of fast, free, ad-supported streaming television. Do you share that excitement? Do you think that's as big an opportunity as some of these pundits suggest?
I think the word fast is also like a new buzzword, and different countries and markets define it very differently. But effectively, it's basically AVOD on TV, right? And again, since the eyeballs are moving towards TV or connected TV, like we see from some industry reports in US that the connected TV watch time is growing massively. And fast, for example, in US definitions is growing 100% year on year. So obviously it's increasing, but then there is a lot to be learned in this at this point. Like, is it just linear distribution of streams on digital, or is it something more nuanced? And once you understand that, once you create a proposition around that, that's when we actually start deriving value on it.
The local Indian players have been pretty successful in competing against global players. What can the Nordic players learn from that experience as they look to compete?
I think when we talk about India, and this is where I can be slightly wrong, but India is a very diverse country, like both in landmass. I think, it's much bigger than a lot of countries in Europe, and which also reflects in so many cultures which it brings. So a content created in, let's say, one part of India resonates with so many other parts of India. And I think that's an insight that I think even Nordics can take, that understand the audience, invest in content which is fungible, like I mentioned before, which can resonate with more audience than one. And that's where your different distribution channel can come in. You may partner with a third party in a different market, or let's say use YouTube just for free distribution and see if this makes sense, and experiment and figure out if that makes sense to you.
Jatin, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, man.